This episode of Quitters is brought to you by Primal Kitchen. Everyone loves my jingles, let's face it. I'm a jingle machine. Cooking in the new year, everybody had dry January, not me. I don't believe in that. That's not my jam. But I do believe in starting out the year by eating as well and in nourishing my body in the best way possible. And I like to do that with Primal Kitchen.
I also like to do that with Primal Kitchen. Primal Kitchen products are made with purposeful, high-quality ingredients, good fats from plant-based oils, no refined sugar, and most importantly, delicious flavor. What that means to me is they're made with stuff that you are supposed to eat, basically. If I just had to make it very simple for myself, which I do, it means that the food is going to be good for you and it's not going to make you feel bad.
Let me tell you, there's a lot of stuff about there. They've got great recipes online. They've got lots of flavorful things, dressings and condiments. Staple in my kitchen is the avocado oil spray. It has replaced all other cooking sprays in my home. I don't know doodah about oil. All I know is that this is a good fat and it makes really great eggs in the morning. Love it.
Delicious. Bomb. Quitters listeners can save 20% at primalkitchen.com/quitters or find Primal Kitchen products at your favorite local grocery store or retailer.
That's right.
In many cases, the catfish is being, despite their lies, very open and vulnerable in a way that they probably haven't been with anyone in the past, because they finally feel like they met someone who they can be themselves with, who is safe because they live far away. They don't know who they really are. So it's sort of like therapy for them. And before they know it, they're deep into this relationship and they realize, how can I tell this person now that I've been lying to them without running the risk of losing them?
Today, our guest on Quitters was Nev Schulman, creator of Catfish, the show on MTV, and originally the documentary that starred him and told his own catfishing story. I thought he was such a different vibe than a lot of our guests. He wasn't a super high energy, fast talking guy. And yet I was completely engaged the whole time. I really enjoyed him. And it was really interesting. He's like a serial quitter in the end.
That's the bit that I'm going to stew on the most later. I think I saw what I wanted in it, like what I wanted to see in it, but it was affirming something that I want to believe, which is that the stuff that you should be doing should feel good. It's not always going to feel good, but like it should feel good. And if it starts to feel too bad, you should put it away and do the stuff that feels good. Professionally, that felt affirming. He was very intentional and thoughtful about how he communicated, while still, I would say, saying a lot, while still giving up what he believes and all that. So I really enjoyed that conversation.
I really enjoyed it too. I think one of the first people we've ever talked to who didn't really think they had a big quit coming in. And yet, as we got talking about it, he has a pattern of walking away from things that he never saw as quitting. I liked him. I liked him
too. And here he is, Catfish creator and executive producer, Nev Schulman.
Hi, Nev.
What's up?
Hey, Nev.
Hi.
How you doing?
Hey, guys.
I'm Julie.
I'm Chad.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet both of you as well.
If you don't mind, we're gonna jump right in. Julie has a catfishing story to tell of her own.
Yeah.
I want to ask you a bunch of kind of philosophical questions about people and hiding. I would love to know first, if we can, is there any question or bucket of questions that you're just like, this is stale, so we can just not even mess with it because we don't want to ask you anything stale?
You'd be hard pressed to ask me a question about catfish that I haven't been asked many times.
Right.
That said, part of what I love about making the show is that it is constantly changing. Because it's a show about real people and real situations that are current, there's always new stuff and new takes and new scenarios that come up. So I can always kind of come up with something different and hopefully insightful to say. But
you're being very politic.
No, I mean, I'm serious. Sometimes I just recently did a sort of round of interviews for this new season that's airing. And I surprised myself, to coming up with things to say to questions I've been asked before.
Okay.
Okay.
I can kind of roll with whatever you've got for me.
Okay.
All
Well,
right.
then I'll start with like the on the nose question. The show is called Quitters, and you're going into what number of season at this point?
10?
Well, it's become very abstract. Julie, I don't know how they ordered seasons with you, but in our case, in order to save money, MTV orders cycles of the show, right? So they don't call it seasons. And typically they would order, seasons 1 and 2, they ordered like 12 or 16 episodes. And then they started ordering 20 at a time, and they would air them in like 2 chunks. So it was like season 3A and 3B. And then at the end of 2019, they ordered 100 episodes.
Whoa.
What?
And so we're right now technically in season 8G, because if they call it season 9, that triggers like bumps for everybody's fee. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Doesn't that piss you off?
I'm cool because in my deal for the 100 episodes, I negotiated accordingly. But for like my brother and Henry, who are executive producers, they're annoyed because like they should be getting their sort of season bumps for production.
So you're
fees,
technically doing a 100 episode season, technically, or cycle? Because that is nothing futz. That's crazy.
It's pretty wild. It's rare that it's a rare order of that magnitude, especially these days. And getting ready to, I think, sign on for a similar renewal.
Wow.
Oh my God. Well, it's great.
Yeah, I mean, that beats me to the punch, which was, do you ever think about the day that you close the door?
And
Catfish will never quit Catfish.
I can't quit Catfish. What what I mean? And why would I? It's the best.
And so you have no end and there's no end of stories incoming for you.
No, I actually think Catfish situations is on the rise for any number of reasons, from social isolation and people sort of feeling more and more insecure and isolated, to AI. I mean, now you can create an entire person. It's only getting easier to catfish.
I watched the first one and then I got catfished. It really shook me, but I walked around with a really bad feeling.
It was like a fan, like a fan account kind of?
I don't know to this day really what happened, but it was weird and the voice was weird and it was always strange and it left me feeling really creepy. And I probably talked to this kid 10 times.
Like on the phone?
And on the phone.
Shit. Like Manti Te'o.
But it was literally like, hey, hi.
Wow. That's scary. I'm
Tyler. And I kept thinking, I'm getting a bad vibe from this. Like they're not asking me for money. They're not asking me to do anything. So what if I'm being catfished? Maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe just suck it up. Are you inured to that at this point? Are you just like, I've heard it all?
I think part of what made me susceptible to getting catfished initially, and what makes me continue to enjoy and making the show and also maintain a level of optimism and objectivity, is that I am sort of programmed to be trusting and to assume the best and to give people the benefit of the doubt. I don't hold grudges. Like my ADHD brain compartmentalizes and in many cases sort of just deletes information very easily and quickly. So I don't hold things against people and I don't really judge people. I just sort of go into every situation with fresh eyes and kind of an open mind. But yeah, obviously I've heard a lot of the same excuses before. So it would be foolish of me at this point to say like, oh, great. He's a model who also DJs and travels between Miami and Mallorca. Like, of course, that sounds legit. Like It's a little harder probably to pull one over on me at this point.
Mallorca. That's one of the ones you're like, no, not real. It's Mallorca.
Right.
No.
What you're saying,
actually, I don't know where Mallorca came from. That's what I mean, though. That just came out of nowhere. So there's always something different to say, right?
It resonates. When I think about catfishes, like I probably was watching the show as soon as it came out. I'm very much, I think of like the catfish generation. If I think about it, just like if I just pull the answer and just don't even try to overthink it, I'm like, why do people do this? I'm guessing they just do it because they want to connect with somebody and they don't feel like worthy of connection in their existing state. Like however they actually are, they feel like they have a better chance if they hide behind some sort of other facade. Is that generally what's going on there? Is that the phenomenon?
That is one of, I think, many versions of how fake catfish profiles originate. I do think we forget that a lot of people are sort of just geographically isolated. Now, even though most of at least America, where we film the show, is pretty densely populated, and you're never that far from an Olive Garden or a Hooters or a bowling alley. For a lot of people who live in small towns, if there's a bar scene, it's one or two bars, and if they're not the type of person who's comfortable in social situations or feels as though they're not interested in meeting the type of people that they might meet in those places, there's not a lot of options. We're so lucky we can go to art shows and performances and galleries and outdoor music concerts. I mean, there's so much happening in our lives typically that we have access to, and a lot of people don't have that. And so, especially if you identify with a certain type of community, there may not be anybody you share that interest and passion with near you. And so, you go on the internet, and either you do it as yourself, or if you're insecure or uncomfortable, perhaps expressing your identity or sort of your truth, you do it with a little bit of a veil, or in some cases, a completely different, mask. I find, at least in the relationships that we tend to address on the show, it's very rarely the intention of the person, or in this case, the catfish, to trick someone into a relationship and lead them on and mess with them.
It isn't? Then what do they want?
What Chad was saying is like, they make the profile because they're isolated, they're insecure, they're unhappy, they're exploring their sexuality, looking to connect with people that they may not feel would be interested in connecting with them as themselves. And so they just make this profile to sort of see what it feels like. Maybe they're transgender and they want to feel what it's like to talk to someone else, as the gender they identify as, but they're not ready to do that in real life. And so they kind of want to see, well, what's it like to feel like this and interact in this way? And then what happens is a friendship sort of begins and a conversation ensues. And because in many cases, the catfish is being, despite their lies, very open and vulnerable in a way that they probably haven't been with anyone in the past, because they finally feel like they met someone who they can be themselves with, who is safe because they live far away. They don't know who they really are. So it's sort of like therapy for them. They open up and they become very emotionally vulnerable and raw, and often form these connections that they don't have in their real life with someone who cares about them and listens to them and asks them questions and shares interests. And they feel this surge of excitement and affection and flirtation that they've never felt. And before they know it, they're deep into this relationship, and they realize, how can I tell this person now that I've been lying to them without running the risk of losing them? Enter my show.
And now, a word from our sponsors. Today's episode is brought to you by Sattva. Chad?
Yes, Julie?
When it comes to money, I can be a little bit...
cheap?
Frugal! Damn it, Chad. Frugal was the word I was searching for.
I'm sorry. My bad.
Did you know that I used to keep money under my mattress? It's actually true. That I did. I would still keep money under my mattress if it weren't for my accountant. But not anymore. And do you know why?
Because you have an accountant?
No, because my mattress is a Sattva and there's no way I'm messing with that baby.
Solid thinking, Julie. I have a Sattva too, and I know exactly where you're coming from.
And Sattvas appeal to my frugal side as much as to my backside because they're surprisingly affordable.
That's because they're sold online without the retail overhead. So they cost about half the price of the top retail brands.
Listen, if you want the most luxuriously comfortable night's sleep, but you don't want to spend a small fortune, do what Chad and I did. Get a Sattva and put your money in an IRA or the bank or some kind of savings thing. Get an accountant. Whatever you do, don't stick it under the mattress.
And right now, save $200 on $1,000 or more at sattva.com/quitters. That's SATVA.com/quitters. This
episode of Quitters is brought to you by Primal Kitchen. Everyone loves my jingles, let's face it. I'm a jingle machine. We're coming out of Black History Month. We're going into Women's History Month.
By the time you hear this, it'll be Women's History Month.
Women's History Month. And Primal Kitchen is co-founded by a female and run by Morgan Bueller-Zanotti, proud mother of two with another on the way as the female founder of my own little tiny empire. I really appreciate that, and I want to support her. So go to primalkitchen.com/quitters or find Primal Kitchen products at your favorite local grocery store or retailer. Let's support a woman-founded business that will make you feel good about what you're eating.
Quitters listeners can save 20% at primalkitchen.com/quitters or find Primal Kitchen products at your favorite local grocery store or retailer. Quitters is supported by Starbucks.
Yeah, life moves so freaking fast. Starbucks ready-to-drink coffee delivers an uplifting boost that helps you tune into the moments that matter wherever you are.
It's Starbucks coffee, conveniently packaged for life on the go.
Yeah, completely. As a mom of three, my hands are totally full between soccer and tennis, and then there's track right now, and there's never enough time in the day to actually, for me, stop at a Starbucks and get a drink. That's why I love a bottled Frappuccino chilled coffee drink. And I have my favorite Starbucks coffee ready when I am. I don't need to stop anywhere. I don't need to pick it up. I don't need to order in advance. I got it at home.
I like to start my day with coffee, especially when I'm recording a new podcast, which is basically now. I have coffee right here. I start every day with coffee. My go-to is Starbucks, ready to drink coffee for that uplifting boost I need to conquer the day.
Oh, I like that you want to conquer your day. By the way, Chad has two podcasts. The other one's Direct Deposit, nominated for a handful of, what's it called?
They're Ambies. They're Ambies. They're Ambies.
I apologize. I should know
the Podcast Academy.
I like it. I am here for it because Direct Deposit is a really great podcast. Everyone should listen to it. I personally love the range of Starbucks ready-to-drink coffee. You know, when I want to grab a Frappuccino chilled coffee drink, or honestly, this is the one I like the best. Nitro cold brew, because I'm not a really sugary kind of gal. You might not have noticed this. I like it straight in the vein. If Starbucks could just give me a straight in my vein coffee, that's what I would do. There are so many good choices. Doesn't matter what mood I'm in, I want it straight in my vein.
Starbucks coffee ready for you right now. Shop the full lineup online or in-store wherever you buy groceries.
Yeah. Today's episode is brought to you by Starbucks, ready to drink coffee. If you're confused by this concept, it's right out there. Ready to drink. It's right there. Tune into moments that matter with the uplifting boost of Starbucks Mocha Frappuccino chilled coffee drink or the Nitro cold brew. I'm just saying, available now online or wherever you buy your groceries. Do you worry that because of the popularity of your show, some people do it in the hopes of getting on the show?
You know, it's not impossible. It's a real stretch for someone to think, oh, I'm going to set up this whole relationship either with a knowing person or victim or unknowingly, and then apply to the show and somehow make it on there. I don't think that's happened. However, we have had people who did sort of fake relationships, or they sort of twisted some of their relationship so that they could use the show to meet. Like in one case, we had these two really sweet girls who had genuinely met online. And one lived in New York, one lived in California. They'd never met, but they had video chatted. So they knew that they were who they said they were. They just didn't have the means to finally meet. So they sort of fibbed and said that they'd never met and never video chatted. And we ended up figuring it out about halfway through the episode that they had in fact known each other, and decided that it was so sweet and innocent that we didn't care and we wanted them to meet anyway. And so we just helped bring them together for the first time, which was really satisfying just because it was a happy ending. But for the most part, it's pretty tough, I think, to pull one over on the show. But we have had a few close calls.
And how common is it for someone to face someone that they've been falling in love with on the internet, find that it's not actually who they thought it was, but then, I don't know, but then like give into the feeling that, well, even though they're, I don't know, a man or a farmer or someone who doesn't like overalls or whatever, like whatever they are, I fell in love with them. And so I'm still left with that feeling. So I got to ride that out. Like, how common is it for people to just say, you know what, fuck it. They're not who I thought they were, but I love them. I'm going to stick with them.
It's not common, but it has happened. But it has happened. I think most notably I don't know if it was season 1 or season 2, but we had an incredible episode where this really sweet girl who I think she was adopted, but now it's a long time ago. So my memory's a little fuzzy. She was part of a family with a bunch of other kids because she was mixed or she was black and her siblings were all white. And she had met this guy online and they talked for a while. Anyway, we went to meet this guy and it turned out to be a transgender man. So I don't know. I don't remember if at the time they identified as a man yet, but they've since transitioned and are now a male. And the girl was so in love, you just felt such a connection to this person that she didn't care. And despite the fact that they looked completely different than the pictures they had sent, she still felt a really genuine connection. And their relationship didn't last, but they gave it a try, which I thought was really sweet. And then more recently, we had an episode where a girl and a guy were talking, and the guy had told her pretty much the truth, except his pictures were of a vastly different person. He had sent pictures of a white guy. It turned out he was black, but she didn't care. And now they're married and they have a kid. So it has happened.
Oh, wow. But you can tell those stories on one hand. I mean, you can count them on one hand. There's not a ton of them. Mostly
so the 200 plus episodes that we've done, it's been a couple.
Yeah, like you knew them. You are really at ground zero of like identity. You're really like in the heart of whatever is identity. Can you see like the future of identity? Do you feel like you can tell us something about where this is going? Like how people see them? Was that like nobody's asked me that yet?
Yeah, no, that's a new one for sure.
We win. Chad for the win.
We did it. We got there together.
The future of identity. I mean, gosh. Weirdly, I think part of the answer to that is that despite thousands of years of human social evolution, I think people are just as, if not more, vulnerable to the same age-old wants and desires that we've always been. The need for people to feel seen and feel affection and to sort of search for and long for love, I think is still so much a core foundational part of what makes us humans. Perhaps one of the most unique things about us as a mammal. While other mammals obviously do in some cases mate for life, very few share what can be kind of recognized as any kind of heartbreak or crush or all of these strange, complicated emotional feelings that we as humans feel, which I think is such a big part of our identity. I would say the future of human identity is just becoming more complicated and confusing because now you have your physical identity, you have your digital identity, You have sort of your perceived identity, what you imagine people think of you, and it's becoming very mixed up. And I don't know how younger people are grappling with it. We're all, sort of. I don't know how old you are, Chad, but
I
Ancient.
turned 35.
Oh, he's young.
On,
He's young.
right,
I'm
okay.
old.
Sunday or something.
Well, right. When they ask me, how can people still get catfished? The show's been on for so long. Everyone's got iPhones or smartphones. But the reality is that try to imagine being an 18-year-old person right now, figuring out who you are. I mean, it was hard enough for us before the internet, just in our school, in our local small community of people who we saw every day. I mean, to now have to compare yourself and be exposed to so many different ideas and sexualities and even just religions and belief systems. I mean, there's so much to try to filter through now to figure out who you are. So my best answer is probably just that I think the future of the human identity is unknown.
Okay.
Can I extrapolate this out a little? Because I was thinking about all movies and TV shows that have asked this same question. Her with Joaquin Phoenix, right? And even a Blade Runner at the end when he realizes she's an android, but he doesn't care. He's going to run off with her. But what Nev was saying is that we've been doing this for hundreds of thousands of years of human existence. In the case of heterosexual attraction, with an eye towards having sex and increasing the population and propagating our species, right? There's also been homosexual love since the dawn of time too. But by and large, there's a desire to procreate. If you are in love with something that you cannot procreate with, how does that inform the future of humans? Are we talking about becoming like just digital remnants? Because there isn't, without that end goal, maybe it's a function of the earth being overpopulated. So the natural, we were selected into these groups where we go, we're not actually going to meet and breed, even if we could in real life. We're going to keep it on the cerebral tip and not actually continue to populate the earth, even though that has been our biological drive since the dawn of time.
That's a very dark and sort of dismal projection of the future. But I like it. I mean, I can go even darker if you want. I mean, I like the idea of human beings sort of, I don't know, eliminating ourselves.
Right.
We've done so much damage, and the earth will eventually purge us anyway, or will sort of naturally happen, and it'll reset. And when you zoom out on the timeline of the universe, it will be a completely insignificant nothing.
Right.
And in a million or a billion years, the earth will have an entirely new, incredible species of beings and whatever. But at the same time, I was recently at a performance of New York City Ballet. I like dance and I see a lot of dance. And a friend of mine premiered a new piece at New York City Ballet, performed by the orchestra to Aaron Copland music. And I just was sitting there looking at this incredible expression of movement and color and music. And I couldn't help but smile and think, wow, what an incredible, fucked up, but insanely beautiful thing that we choose to make art. It serves no practical function, and yet we make this incredible thing to express feeling and emote. And I don't know, I just was sort of reminded of the beauty of human beings for a moment in a sort of fleeting, ephemeral, burst of joy.
I love that. And I think that it's not, even in my darkness of saying there's going to be a self-selecting group that decides not to procreate by keeping their relationships strictly digital or non-physical, there's always going to be procreation. There's always going to be
and the reality now is that we don't even we're already at the point where we don't even need physical procreation anymore. We can create children. Well, I guess we still need a female body to incubate, but like now,
not for much longer though. I bet they'll figure
that's what
that
I mean.
out
Probably
soon.
not for much longer. Right.
Yeah. Wow. Well, we got real fucking dark.
I don't know if that's that. I mean, it's interesting that you capture that as darkness. Like when I think about the world without people, it looks like Fern Gully. Like it looks like everything is lush and beautiful and alive, and like
Yeah.
there's just no, or just very few, I would say, people on it, like trampling over it and making Brooklyn out of it. So I don't know. I don't think that's that dark. I think there's something
No, I
kind of
don't mean
like light
look,
about that.
I am all about that. I love the idea that in I don't know how many hundreds of years, but not too many, there'll be a lot less humans and the earth will start recovering from our you know, terrible
Abuse.
tenure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I could see a future with, I've been watching The Last of Us, so
Yes.
I've been having like wild doomsday dreams. Have you guys had any like I had a crazy dream about could I somehow turn my apartment in New York City into like a protected, sustainable doomsday bunker of some kind?
And the answer is no. What floor are you
Probably
on?
not. Well, I'm on the top.
Penthouse.
So right.
How
so I've
many
got
floors
I've got
is
a
it?
roof, right? So I could like grow
You could grow stuff.
potentially, right.
But you'd have to go up how many flights of
13.
stairs? Okay, 13 flights of stairs, no running water.
No, I know. Well, you have to collect
no-
rainwater on the roof. I mean, look, I went through it all.
Neve,
You've considered the options.
Mostly I was trying to think how I could secure it so that zombies couldn't get up to us.
but they climb on each
understand.
other's heads, you know?
Right.
Neve, so you described it, I thought, very well, like the case for someone who is completely isolated and needs to find connection, and so they go through the internet. I think in your journey over the last decade plus, like you're famous now. So you're like the opposite of that person, but maybe you might have found yourself back where they are on the spectrum. You live in a dense city, you're a noble person, you're on TV, you're behind TV, like all that. But do you ever still have the same issue of like, I just need to feel like I can connect with somebody? Like, are you still able to empathize with the guests? Do you still understand like the thing that they're going through in a real way?
I think so. I mean, yeah, for sure. I mean, I still get sad when I go on the internet and see friends of mine hanging out and I didn't get invited. Somebody made a sort of new sort of YouTube show, late night talk show in New York City, and like asked me to be a guest on it. So I was like, sure, cool. Did the interview. And then, I mean, it's kind of like a yin yang in this case, because I did get asked to do something cool and I did it. But then I just saw online that they had like the premiere party and didn't get invited. And so I just felt like, what? So that's not a great example. But I don't have a lot of friends, and I still get so excited when anybody invites me to anything. Personally.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. I think because I've been filming for so many years now and I'm always on the road and my schedule is unpredictable, that like maybe after a few years of friends trying to invite me to stuff and me never being able to go, they just sort of stopped inviting me.
Dropped off, right.
Some people say New York City is like the loneliest place in the world, right? Because there's so many people and so much happening. And if you're not doing it, if you're not in it, if you're not part of it, it can feel super sad. So I have to really work, I think, as hard as anyone to plan stuff, to find things to do, to make time to hang out with friends. And having spent a lot of time in a lot of those small sort of suburbs outside of mid-sized cities, I know how tough it is. I mean, I know. I get there and it's 7:30, 8 o'clock, and I want to get something to eat. And, there's probably not an actual sort of local restaurant. If there is, you're lucky, and it probably closes at 8:30 anyway. And then you've got to see if anybody wants to go out, but it could be a drive. I think car culture in this country has destroyed our sort of the social fabric of America.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because if you can't just walk around and bump into someone and pop into a place and then say, hey, let's go down. Like that's the town square is, in my opinion, what is so sorely missing from 90% of America's population. The local gathering spot where paths cross and ideas are exchanged. And unfortunately, it's been replaced by the internet, which it has its benefits, but allows for totally faceless, no repercussion interaction, right? So anyone can just say whatever the heck they want, as offensive or wrong or opinionated as it is, and not have to worry about the effects that it's going to have on that group of people. Whereas in your town square, you can't just walk up to someone. You could, but you probably wouldn't just walk up to someone and say something awful because you're going to see them tomorrow. That has allowed for a wild transformation in human behavior that in many ways is not great.
Lack of accountability is
that's
terrifying.
The word. Thank you.
Yeah. No accountability. Going back to New York being a potentially the loneliest place on earth, here you are. You're successful. They're ordering hundreds of episodes at a chunk.
That's crazy.
Why wouldn't you just quit Manhattan? Find that small town that actually still has the good vibe.
It doesn't live in Manhattan.
I think about it almost every day.
Oh, sorry, New York. Quit New York, not Manhattan.
Right. I grew up in Manhattan, so I mean, I'm a local.
Okay.
Oh wow.
I think why I love New York City is because it does have the town environment. So my town is Williamsburg now, and I make the same walk with my kids to school. I pass the same shops. There's a great little vegan spot on Grand Street called the Garden Carver. And when we were trying to get rid of a piano that had been given to us by our neighbor who was moving out, I offered it to them and I rolled it down the street. And now it sits there. And whenever we go by, I bring my kid in and he bangs on it. Like that, I love that. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
So I get that sort of local small town feeling in my neighborhood. And that's what's so fun about New York City is there's so many neighborhoods.
Yeah.
And it's all walkable and it's all, people often ask me about the difference, having lived in LA, the difference, between New York and LA, which one's better, which I think is a hilarious question because anybody who's lived in New York knows the answer. But Los Angeles, the best sort of analogy I've come up with is that Los Angeles is like a lake, big, beautiful lake, right? Lovely. Plenty of things you can do. You can water ski, you can swim, you can sit on a dock and lay in the sun, like lots of nice things you can do. But it's the same every day.
Yeah.
New York City is a raging river. Second you step out your door, you don't know where the hell it's going to take you. You're going to bump into shit. You're going to wash up on the side. I mean, there's like anything can happen at any given moment. And that's so exciting and so thrilling. And I love that. And that's why I think I still live here, because though I love getting out of the city, it calls me back. It's that thrill. It's that it's a drug to sort of bring it back to Catfish. I think similarly, the internet provides, for people who don't live in New York City, the internet provides that insane unpredictability, right? You can log on and throw yourself into this total unknown and meet people from the other side of the world who you shouldn't meet, who don't need you in their lives, but yet here you are interacting and talking and falling in love or getting into an argument. Like it's wild and unpredictable, and it's exciting. And that's where a lot of people turn for that thrill. That's why I think catfishing continues to happen and why internet relationships aren't going away. And fortunately for me, why I still have a job that I love to do.
And so Catfish has been in your life it'll be close to 15 years.
Yeah.
I'm curious about like your sense of identity outside of the show, whether other people project it onto you, whether it's stuff that you've held on to, like how have you been able to just be Nev aside from Catfish?
Another one, Chad.
Yeah. Yay!
So that is something that I have definitely been grappling with, specifically kind of the last few years. Obviously, when the documentary Catfish came out, no one knew who I was. I wasn't in or pursuing entertainment or celebrity of any kind. It was never on my to-do list to host a television show. So for people to sort of be introduced to me through that experience and the representation of my experience via the documentary was wild, because all of a sudden people saw me and they thought, oh, you're the guy that got catfished. And more fortunately, you're the guy that handled that situation really well and showed that poor woman, empathy, and, we're really kind. And I'm very proud of the way I acted. But if you were to ask some other people who had experiences with me in my life around the same time, they might give you a very different review of my behavior. I'm not always that person. It was an incredible gift that I was sort of thrust onto the world as that version of myself, because that's what then people expected of me, which sort of in turn forced me to really deliver and make my identity of who I was the person that they were already expecting me to be. And so I spent years, really kind of leaning into that and owning it and working hard at being better or the best version of myself that I could. And then I kind of started to feel like, well, I'm not just this guy. I love that people roll down their car windows as they drive by and yell catfish, but like, it would be nice if I could be something else. And then Julie, I'm sure you can relate. Like, you say, well, I've got this great thing. Like, it's a 1 in a million. It's
right.
What are the chances I'll ever have something like this again? Let me just own it. This is just me. I'm so lucky I even get to have a thing that's me, that people love. I'll just, ride this wave as long as I can. And so, I kind of was teeter-tottering kind of on that. And then I think slowly got more and more confident as I got older. And then when I met my wife and we had our child and got married, and like people started to see me now as like a husband and dad, that felt really good. As all of a sudden I was like, oh, okay. Like I'm actually becoming more of a person with a bigger identity, like it is sort of permeating out into my existence within my fans and sort of public identity. And then I've sort of naturally let things happen. So I started running and decided I love running and that I guess I'm decent at it enough that like I thought I could make it part of my, I hate it, the brand, if whatever you want to call it, or I prefer the word identity. And so I just sort of started putting that out there and talking to people about it, and set a goal to sort of try and see if I couldn't get a running sponsor as a sort of. And now I'm represented by Under Armour.
Oh, he's totally.
I'm like an Under Armour. Yeah,
Baltimore strong. Under Armour, Baltimore company. That's where I'm from.
Nice.
And now a word from our sponsors. Today's episode of Quitters is brought to you by Fiore, who is awesome because they are 100% offsetting their carbon footprint. There's so much fast fashion out there, and they're just destroying the earth. Not Fiore.
I love my Fiore sweatpants. I love my Fiore sweatpants. And I have a Fiore jacket as well. I love them both. They're extremely comfortable. They're versatile. Yeah. I feel like I can wear them to real places, but also just to like walk my dog or to dinner for a friend's birthday. And they do what you want them to do. The sweatpants are comfortable, but you're warm. The jacket is comfortable, but you're warm. I feel like I look like what I'm about to be next week, which is like a 35-year-old person. Like a real person.
A 35-year-old person.
Like a real person. You know what I mean?
Now, when you're talking about the sweatpants, are you referring to the performance jogger?
Yeah. Yes.
Because it's when you're talking about the sweatpants, I think of my kids in their like slouchy, disgusting sweatpants, and they are really comfy when I look at them. But I'm like, I'm a mature woman, and you are a mature man about to be 35. A performance jogger is like a grown-up sweatpant.
Yes.
But it just is a little sharper.
It has a shape. It has a shape. It's okay for your sweatpants, for your joggers to have a shape. You want to have a shape.
That's right. That's exactly correct. Plus, they're saving the earth. Did I mention that? They also have the jogger in a short. They have my favorite. They have these cute tennis dresses that I'm plugging all over the place because I play pickleball, and I'm going to call them pickleball dresses. So Fiore is more than just clothes. It's an investment in your happiness.
Wow.
For our listeners, they are offering 20% off your first purchase. Get yourself some of the most comfortable and versatile clothing on the planet at vuori.com/quitters. That's VUORI.com/quitters.
Not only will you receive 20% off your first purchase, but enjoy free shipping on any U.S. orders over $75 and free returns. Go to vuori.com/quitters and discover the versatility of Vuori clothing.
Oh, you know why I like Green Chef?
Why?
When you look at the menu, it says how long it's going to take. Now, I always have to add maybe double it because I'm super slow in the kitchen and not very good. But my favorite, the pork with balsamic fig sauce, which by the way, you can make with chicken too, is 35 minutes. 35 minutes, that is my speed. I do not want to spend all day in the kitchen.
35 minutes. That is the perfect time to cook while doing what? Listening to a podcast. The perfect recipe is the duration of a podcast episode. So that's what you do.
Bam! That's exactly right. I always listen to something. So you turn on your podcast and you shake off winter with delicious, easy to follow recipes that support your healthy lifestyle. And you get to pick. You get to pick 3 different meals a week, and you go vegan, paleo, keto, whatever your jam is, you get to pick it.
The thing that I love about it is it tastes like food, it tastes like delicious, all at the same time. You don't have to sacrifice any one of those 3 things while eating it.
Here's another great thing that they're doing, because I like it fast, 10-minute lunches. Okay, so for me, that's 20 minutes, because I'm slow. Let's just pad it. I'm slow. 20 minutes, I can do 20 minutes. That's a shorter podcast. But it's 20 minutes. I can totally do that. Tell us where to go. Where should we go, Chad?
Go to greenchef.com/quitters60 and use code quitters60 to get 60% off plus free shipping. Go to greenchef.com/quitters60 and use code quitters60 to get 60% off plus free shipping.
You know what it is? It's the #1 meal kit for eating well. Ding!
Ding!
Quitters is supported by Starbucks.
Julie, life moves fast. Life moves fast. Starbucks ready-to-drink coffee delivers an uplifting boost that helps you tune into the moments that matter wherever you are.
It's Starbucks coffee. It's the stuff you already love, but it's conveniently packaged for life on the go.
I keep Starbucks ready-to-drink coffee within arm's reach at all times. Whether I'm spending time with friends or just curled up with a good book like Rick Rubin's book, nothing helps me savor the moment quite like a tall, light roast with oat milk. That's it. That's all I want. I don't care.
I am obsessed with the Starbucks Frappuccino chilled coffee drinks. They are delicious. In Southern California, usually it's very warm and you want something light and refreshing. But I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I really like the Nitro Cold Brew. Nitro Cold Brew. It's like black coffee that's cold and you feel it like, you know what my favorite thing to do with it is? Have you ever heard of a caffeine nap?
No, kind of.
Okay, so
it is.
So caffeine actually takes 15 to 20 minutes to kick in. The sort of placebo effect kicks in faster. But the greatest thing to do, chug a cold nitro brew, set your alarm, take a 20-minute nap, and you will wake up like, bam! It's so good. It is so good. I'm not kidding. It's called a caffeine nap. I learned about it from my sister who's a doctor, so she can't be wrong.
That feels like something that you would do. I love the range of Starbucks ready-to-drink coffee, whether I want to grab a Starbucks Frappuccino chilled coffee drink or a Nitro Cold Brew. There's so many good choices for whatever mood I'm in. That's right. Starbucks coffee, ready for right now. Shop the full lineup online or in-store wherever you buy groceries.
So today's episode of Quitters is brought to you by Starbucks ready-to-drink coffee. Tune into the moments that matter with the uplifting boost of Starbucks Mocha Frappuccino chilled coffee drink. Available now, online, or wherever you buy your groceries. Going back to feeling the positivity of human beings making art. And that moment when you were at the Lincoln Center, was it? Watching your friend at the ballet. And listening to Aaron Copland and seeing this new piece. Is your artistic side being met by doing the creative work of Catfish? Or do you still wish that you had a different artistic outlet, which leads me to the second part,
Sure.
which is dance, which is in your past
Right.
and is a solid quit.
So yeah, I mean, look, I have huge regrets that I didn't more seriously pursue dance. I danced, in sort of middle school with this troupe, National Dance Institute, which was really fun, but it was very kind of casual, not formal dance training. And then I danced a little bit in high school and a little in college, but I knew that the amount of commitment and dedication I would need to pursue it would have required a desire so great. I clearly knew I didn't have it, right? Like there are so many dancers who are struggling, who want it
Right.
more than anything. And I knew I didn't want that. But it was still
Right.
something that was solidly a part of my young identity. And then I got the chance to do Dancing with the Stars a few years ago and had the absolute best 3 months of my life. I mean, I got to taste what it was like to dance every day, perform every week, and get paid to do that. And it was amazing. And I really at that moment was like, man, it would have been so awesome if I had done this. That said, it wasn't for me. If it had been, I would have probably pursued it. But artistically, yes, Catfish does not check all the boxes for me. It does in a lot of other ways in terms of my sort of moral obligation. I feel very good about the work that we do on the show. And I think that it provides a very needed and true moral compass for a lot of people who watch it, and starts really good conversations. I mean, some of the best moments for me over the last 10 years have been one in particular when like a dad walked up to me at the airport once on my way somewhere and said, "Hey, don't want to bother you, but I just wanted to tell you my 15-year-old daughter and I watched an episode of your show recently, and it started a conversation between us that ended up being this incredibly important, beautiful exchange. And I just wanted to say thank you for sort of providing us with that space." And that was, obviously stuck with me now years later. So I'm really proud of the work that I do. And I don't think I could find, I'd be hard pressed to find a job that I like more than this. I love the people I work with. I like that I'm helping people and I feel just good about it. However, I do feel like there is a hole still to fill in my, expression as a human. And I coincidentally, I just started taking saxophone lessons.
What?
Because I love music and I've always wanted to be able to express myself through music. And my friend is a saxophone player and I just sort of said, "Hey, can I take lessons?" And he said, "Sure." So I just started doing that. So I'm on week 2. Look out for Nev on the tenor sax.
When you say that there's like a hole of expression or something, that's interesting that you chose a genre, you chose an instrument. Like, do you feel like you kind of, is it to fill that hole? Do you have to like experiment with different things to figure out what fills it? Or do you feel like you have a vision of like, this thing is going to make it feel right?
Yeah, no. Well, in this case, it was kind of an accident. I had recently become friendly with this really gifted young sax player his name is Augie Bello. I found him on social media because he makes these great videos and I sort of just reached out and I was like, "Look, man, I see you live in New York. I love your stuff. Like, let's be friends." And we started hanging out. He came over the other night, had his saxophone with him, played a little bit for my kids, and then he let my daughter try it because she was interested. And then I was interested. And I was like, "Can I try?" And I did. And it came naturally enough to me that he said, "Wow, Nev, is this the first time you ever played? Like most people don't get a good sound out of the instrument when they first try it." And I said, "Yeah, this is, I've never done this before." And he said, "Wow, that's really good." And I was like, maybe I'm supposed to play the saxophone. Maybe this is like the world telling me it's time to finally pursue my interest in music.
What about going back to dance? Why not the original love?
I think about it a lot. I should start taking dance classes again. Just going once in a while to a jazz or a hip hop class because I do love it. I do feel like I peaked with Dancing with the Stars. Like I'd be hard pressed to find a situation that could be better than that. You know, like I think in terms of living out my dreams to have been a dancer, like that was it. You know. So
well, because it came with a paycheck and a schedule, which is what you never usually get as a dancer.
Right. Oh yeah. Well, not just that, but like the level of intensity, right? Like 12 weeks dancing every day, you know, fully committed, like with the costumes and this, you know, I mean, it was so epic, right? So I'm never gonna get that again. You know, I would definitely consider going into musical theater, like if there was an opportunity to do a show, or I've talked to my friend Maria Kurowski is the creative director of the New Jersey Ballet, and I asked her if she would consider having me as like a guest artist for like the Nutcracker to play one of the sort of more dramatic roles, you know, like Drosselmeyer, you know that character, like the uncle.
Is he the guy at the uncle who brings the Nutcracker?
Who brings the Nutcracker? Right.
Right.
He doesn't have any dancing parts. He just sort of
not really. He just parades about.
Right, exactly.
He does some good parading.
Yeah. So I'm definitely still interested in all of that. Yeah.
There was a time when you had to make a choice about dance and where you were going to go. And I just want to ask about that moment because again, name of the show is Quitters. Quit. There was a moment where you had to make a decision. Was it leaving school? Was it leaving a college? Was it about to go to college? Where was the moment when there was like, was it a summer vacation? When you're like, yeah, I'm not going to do that again after
I think I weirdly, I haven't thought about it much or ever really, but I think there was kind of a moment. I had been dancing with NDI for, I don't know, I can't remember exactly, 4 years maybe. And that was typically like on the weekends. On Saturdays, you'd rehearse, and then we'd have performances. And I had sort of risen in the ranks of the organization to their sort of top tier, which is called Celebration, which is sort of the equivalent of like a principal dancer at a ballet company.
Right.
And we'd actually performed at the White House for Clinton. We performed at the Kennedy Center Honors when the founder of the company, Jacques d'Amboise, was honored with the Kennedy Center Honor. We flew to Switzerland and we performed up at, you know, like it was like a pretty cool thing. And I remember vaguely one Saturday, I think we were rehearsing, and I don't know if I had just sort of not remembered or paid attention enough to learn some sequence of something. And I remember getting some sort of, you know, negative feedback, if you will, from the teacher being like, you know, Nev, hey, like, come on, get with it. Like, we need to learn this or something. And I think I just sort of had this moment where I was like, ugh, this is getting annoying. Like, it's not fun anymore. Typically in my past, what I find is a pattern for me having to do with quitting is that my natural abilities will take me so far in order to kind of get good at something. And then as soon as I reach the sort of barrier that keeps me from getting better easily, I'll quit. And I think I'd sort of reached that point and just felt like I don't want it enough. Like clearly I'm not trying as much as I would need to, and I don't feel like trying more. And so I just sort of walked away.
How old were you?
I don't know exactly. My guess is I was probably like 14.
Okay, so fairly
15.
young. Fairly young, but you'd achieved a lot with this, and yet you say that this had continued to be a pattern because I'm seeing you running and playing saxophone. And do you see yourself kind of getting to like your natural limit and then going, this isn't fun anymore? Which is, by the way, totally valid. Like, no, you don't have to be a marathon runner. You don't have to be a world touring dancer.
I've had a number of things that I'd pursued and then reached a certain level. I played the violin for a couple of years and then after I kind of plateaued at that first place where, a year or two will get you, and realized that in order to get better, I'd have to really invest more time and effort. I kind of thought, I don't think I want to do that. The first sort of life-changing or pattern-changing thing that I did was making this show, Catfish. So like, I've never done anything this long, consistently with success. Now, even though making Catfish hasn't become more difficult for me, and might argue it's become easier, it's still, I think, definitely reset a little bit of my brain chemistry to allow me to consistently keep doing the same thing over and over again, find ways to enjoy it, find ways to make it different, find ways to improve it. And that, I think, helped a lot. And then 6 years ago, I kind of accidentally started running because I was invited by a charity to run the New York City Marathon for their team. And yeah, I'd never done any long distance running ever. And I thought, okay, let's give this a try. And ran my first marathon, having set a very ambitious goal. I think sort of foolishly thinking I could do it with very little effort or work. Didn't, obviously, achieve that goal. But then somehow was inspired to try harder the next year. Still didn't achieve that goal. And then for whatever reason, decided like, I really want to put in the work and do this. And I don't know what it was about running. And maybe it was just simply the fact that I had set a goal that I weirdly felt passionate about achieving. And I did. It took me 2 more times trying because the following year I got injured. And then I had to get more serious about like taking care of myself, because if I was going to train hard enough to achieve the goal, I actually had to also then, like stretch and do physical therapy and all that. But I did. And I did the thing, right? And there was definitely a little bit of a come down after that where I was like, okay, now what? Like, do I set a faster goal? Do I care anymore about going fast? And since then, I've just enjoyed running and I still like doing it. Now I've got this Under Armour sponsorship and it's not so much about achieving this goal. It's just about having something that I'm committed to that I like doing. But it is hard for me when I'm not visibly getting better at something to stay interested in it.
You said you had to do a chemical rewiring to continue with it down a long path. What I think I was hearing was like, in order to not quit it, in order to keep it going, you kind of had to like let yourself do that. It wasn't getting harder and it wasn't
right. Well, right. And I also I think part of what contributes to my quitting is just getting bored. Right. So if something doesn't interest me at a certain level after a period of time, I just get bored. Or if I can't achieve the level of success that I'm hopeful to quickly enough, I kind of just feel like, well, this will get boring. Like putting in all this hard work is not as fun as the imagined result.
I'm sort of coming up with this sort of storyline about you as far as when you were younger, you would reach sort of this natural quit point for you in a lot of different things when it was no longer interesting. And yet running is the first thing you've taken up after Catfish, right? So after this, like what Chad just pointed out, after this kind of like long-term brain sort of reset, because you have to, you're married, you've got kids, your options are always a little different for quitting once you've got people relying on you, depending on the manner of the quit. Reflecting back to you, that's an enormous change that you then took up this thing later, not late in life, but as an adult, you didn't do it as well as you thought you were going to, and then doubled down on your commitment to it, and then doubled down again. That is like the best form of growth you could possibly have.
Right. I think running for me has become this very important constant. And until recently, which is perhaps even more interesting, it was entirely selfish. I mean, there was zero upside outside of my own desire to achieve this goal. Like, it wasn't, if anything, it was, it had downsides, right? I mean, physically, it can be hard on you in terms of my marriage. And having young children, going out for 3 or 4 runs every week is also not always the best thing to be doing. Like, so there were a lot of reasons to not be doing it. And yet somehow I just knew that like I need this. I need a thing that's mine that I'm doing. I could go on the same run week after week and see and feel my body getting faster, which is such a crazy, cool phenomenon. And that was really exciting for me because it had very sort of trackable progress. I'm not currently training aggressively. I'm just sort of running for these health and mental health and physical health benefits. And because I've got this great partner in Under Armour and they're going to send me to these events. But now I've sort of removed a little bit of the quit feeling of like, do I really want to do this? Like, what am I getting out of it? And now I think the sponsorship sort of refreshed my excitement because there are these events they want to send me to. I've got this ability now to kind of use running to give back. So I got Under Armour to send 400 pairs of sneakers to the dance organization that I used to dance with when I was a kid for all those kids. Now I'm like, I'm such an idiot, but like, have you guys heard of ultra marathons?
Yes, of course.
So,
of course. The Born to Run. I hope you read the book.
No.
You've never read Born to Run?
No,
Nev.
I read.
I will send it to you right now.
What I mean when I talk about running or something?
We're talking about running. No, this is Born to Run. It's about the history of ultra marathons and it's the history of running and why
Under Armour,
humans are born to run.
Are you a runner?
I was a runner for a long time. I was training for a marathon and got really badly injured. And because I have a pacemaker, which is from a long time ago, I can't get an MRI. So I can't get an MRI. So I tore they believe by process of elimination. I was like, well, how did you diagnose this shit old school?
Right.
And they said, well, a process of elimination, you tore the labrum in your hip. You have to stay off of it. And now they said, basically, you can run. You can still run. What's more important to you, running as a casual runner for the rest of your life or doing a marathon? Because you might have to pick one or the other because we don't know what's going on in your freaking hip. And it could happen again. And that was 6 weeks on crutches. So I chose the former and I just turned down the intensity and was like, it's such a thing that means so much to me for my mental health. I can't give it up completely.
Yeah. Also, marathons are really dumb. And the only thing dumber than that is an ultra marathon. But anyway, so Under Armour
you're going to do one.
So Under Armour sponsors this thing called the Trans Rockies Ultra Marathon. Yep. You know about it?
Yeah.
Anyway. And
it's
I was like, oh, that's a new challenge. Like, I just need to be challenged. I just feel like I constantly need things to be to change in order to keep me engaged. And I've realized that I need to set a goal. I need to have something to work towards. And so I've decided that even though I curse running marathons after I run them, having the New York City Marathon as my annual check-in forces me to say, you know what? Okay, got to keep running. And now that I have these other dates throughout the year through Under Armour, I'm like, okay, you know what? These are great. The more of these I have, the more it'll keep things fresh. I'll go to different places. I just need variety. I need, in order to stay active and interested in something, I need it to be changing, which is why, despite Catfish being relatively unchanged for 10 years, it works because every episode is so different than the last. So even though the system in place never changes, the people and the places and the circumstances do. And so that keeps me able to like re-engage every time.
Do you know what this is, Chad? It's insane. They run 100 miles.
Well, there's different. So there's a 3-day version of it and there's a 6-day version of it. The 6-day is like, I think 120 combined miles. And the 3-day is like 50. Yeah, basically you're running between like 15 and 26 miles a day for however many days you choose to do it. But it's not running like a marathon is. It's a real mix of there's like straight up hiking. So sometimes you're just like walking. It's not like I'm out there all day, every day, like sprinting, you know? But it's still
And some people do them
crazy.
straight through and run in the night as well, which is absolutely insane. And there's some people that do them in Death Valley where you have to run on the stripes in the road where your shoes will melt. 100 miles. No
Well, I can vouch
way.
that Julie is fast. I've gone on
Not
one
that
hike with
fast.
her, and she hikes very quickly, and I returned with a knee injury.
Well, I'm always looking for running buddies in LA. Julie, are you in LA?
I'm in LA, yeah. I'm now just a casual runner, though. I'm a very low-key runner now.
We'll have to go for a casual run.
Okay, love it. I love it. And I'm going to send you this book, Born to Run, because it is magnificent and changed my relationship to running. I had really run out of steam too and was getting knee injuries. And this book changed everything. It's a great read. I mean, it's a page turner with all this science jammed in there too. So explaining why it is that we are uniquely as a species born to run. No other species is. Cheetahs, they're only born to sprint. Horses, they all poop out. We can actually go low and slow we can hunt an antelope and exhaust it. And it's a physiological a result of evolution that they go through, and it's fucking awesome.
Cool.
It made me really excited. Yeah. Well, it was a pleasure to have you. Well,
nice.
Pleasure to have you, Nev. Thank you for sharing with us. You were such an interesting guy who I got a lot to say. We'll say it about you behind your back, and they're all good things. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
My pleasure.